Welcome to Betting with the Bag, Thursday, November 28th, and a very happy Thanksgiving to everyone tuning in from the United States. Hope you have a tremendous holiday, a profitable holiday, and enjoy the time with your family, with your friends, and be thankful for what you have at this time of year. Always important because things could be a lot worse off, I believe, for all of us. The fact that we get to congregate every day, talk sports betting, it's a blessing we're able to do it, to be honest with you, when we know people are going through much tougher times around the world, that we get to do something like this on a daily basis. So always count your blessings and be thankful for what you got. This day always reminds you to do just that. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I hope you have a great holiday. Welcome to Betting with the Bag. It is Thanksgiving Thursday. Obviously, it's a lighter card, I guess you could say, today. There's no NBA action. The NBA takes Thanksgiving off on the Thursday. There's only one NHL game, and usually there's no NHL on a Thanksgiving Thursday, but just the one NHL game, New Jersey, Montreal. We do have a lot of good college basketball today, and that is why we've got Maxwell Smart coming on as one of our guests today. He'll be on at 11:50 a.m. Eastern Time, breaking down this college basketball card. Some really good games, actually, especially in the afternoon. Michigan and North Carolina is a very intriguing game, as Juwan Howard really continues to do a good job with that program in his first year. I mean, they've really impressed me. I thought there'd be some bit of a learning curve, a little bit of growing pains transitioning from Beeline to Juwan Howard, and really hasn't happened for Michigan. So give them credit. Gonzaga, Oregon. What else can you say there? That's a phenomenal matchup. So we'll break all of those games down later. We'll save college basketball till 11:50 when Maxwell Smart joins the show. And Maxwell Smart's on the early show today, guys, because there's no late show today. No 5:30 p.m. show later today, just the morning show. Again, there's not much going on tonight other than the Saints-Falcons NFL game, the Egg Bowl in college football, the one NHL game. Most of the marquee college basketball is in the afternoon, not in the evening, so it makes sense to only have a morning show today at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So let's welcome in everybody in the chat here, filing in on this Thanksgiving Thursday. As I see everybody starting to roll in right now, we got MVP Sports Picks, a good friend of mine. I've been hanging out with him. We've had a lot of fun on a couple of different occasions in the past. Hope he's doing well. Happy Thanksgiving to him. Rico Money, Illwise, Ralph Portuando, Jason Stasher. Welcome in, everybody, and happy Thanksgiving to all of you. So the first, and then 11:20, I should also mention, we got Jason Paglia joining the show, 11:20 a.m. Eastern Time, where we'll focus more on the three NFL Thursday games, so we'll wait till he's on board at 11:20 to talk about those before that, and then college basketball with Maxwell Smart. So I'm going to start with the college football game that's taking place tonight. It is the Egg Bowl. It is Ole Miss taking on Mississippi State in college football tonight. A rivalry game, one of many rivalry games taking place this week because it's rivalry week. So, you've got all of these teams that annually play each other every single year on rivalry week. And this is one of them, Ole Miss and Mississippi State. We've got some Ole Miss money coming in. This opened at Mississippi State -3 here in Starkville, all the way down now to 1 in a lot of spots. 1.5, total 58.5, 59 in this game. It's actually starting to move up just a little bit. In terms of the total, remember to use SBRodds.com every day to get the best number, best line, best price available with all of your wagers. That's SBRodds.com. It's a great resource. It's one that every bettor and handicapper should be using, SBRodds.com. Very fascinating game here between these two teams because Mississippi State is in one of those precarious situations where people are automatically going to be thinking to bet a team like Mississippi State and these teams that are sitting at 5 wins coming into this week, because the 6th win is something these teams need to get to bowl eligibility. And it's like, wow, these teams are really going to bring it here in this game, like Mississippi State. They're 5 wins. They need one more win to be bowl eligible. They've got to win the game, right? Well, must win doesn't equal will win. And when I break down this matchup, and I spent a good amount of time doing that early in the week, I don't see a scenario where I see Mississippi State being better than Ole Miss, and I really don't see them being better than Ole Miss on the defensive side of the football. I think Ole Miss defensively has gotten better throughout the course of the season. They've gotten pressure. Their sack numbers have gone up. They've done a much better job stopping the run. You look at their yards per play numbers on the defensive side of the football for Ole Miss, they are better. than what Mississippi State has and against a similar strength of schedule, so it's not a huge discrepancy. Ole Miss and Mississippi State are both SEC West teams. They play similar opponents and a lot of common opponents throughout the season, especially in conference play. And I think the style of offense that Ole Miss is running, it's that Rich Rod offense, where he's got the quarterback that's mobile, quarterback that's a running threat, a dual threat, and he's found that quarterback now with John Reese Plumlee, who's been taking over the quarterback position the last several weeks for this Rebels team. Done a really good job. Like, he's not a polished passer. There's no question. He's a run-heavy quarterback. That's why they use Matt Corral as well. They bring him in. They use a dual quarterback system. Matt Corral is more of the passer, the passing quarterback, and John Reese Plumlee is more of the running quarterback. And, that two-quarterback system and that two-quarterback dynamic has worked for Ole Miss. They've had some of their better games offensively here. We know Ole Miss has definitely been challenged offensively. And, Joe Moorhead's done a great job at Penn State when he was the offensive coordinator there under James Franklin. The first year or two he was here at Mississippi State. He had Nick Fitzgerald as his quarterback, and that Mississippi State offense was pretty good in that season. But his quarterback play, whether it's Tommy Stevens, whether it's Garrett, the other guy, it has gone down in terms of production, in terms of consistency. That's been an issue for Mississippi State. Their offensive line has been pretty bad, actually, most of the season. They have really struggled in the trenches to protect, to open up holes for the ground game. And that might continue here tonight, in my opinion, against Ole Miss. I like the way the Ole Miss D front is playing in recent games. And really what stands out to me when looking at this particular game is when you look at Ole Miss against the gruesome, the big three, I guess you could say, of the SEC West, the big three being LSU, Alabama, Auburn. And then you look at Mississippi State when they went up against LSU, Alabama, and Auburn. There's a big difference in how these two teams were able to step up in class against those three teams. Ole Miss went 3-0 against the spread, facing LSU, Alabama, and Auburn. Covered the number. They were at least, covering the number in defeat. Reasonably competitive. I don't want to say they were right in any of those games, but they were reasonably competitive against LSU and moved the ball against LSU. That Ole Miss offense had success. They moved the ball against Alabama, too. Ole Miss. You go back and look at their games against the Tigers and the Crimson Tide. That Ole Miss offense had some success in that game. And they were right in the game, actually, against Auburn as well, and covered the number in defeat in all of those games. And then you contrast that to what Mississippi State, the Bulldogs, did against LSU, Alabama, and Auburn during the regular season. They got eviscerated by those three teams. They got bombed. They didn't even look like they belonged on the same field with any of those three teams. They went 0-3 against the spread. They suffered massive double-digit blowout losses in all three of those games. So Ole Miss fared much better against the heavyweights in the SEC than Mississippi State did. They were able to step up in class. And you look at it from an Ole Miss perspective. Well, you're a 4-win team. You're not going to a bowl. Where's your incentive? It's a rivalry game. That's your incentive. And I know Ole Miss isn't going to a bowl game, and this game means for Mississippi State that they're into a bowl game with a win. So people are going to say, hey, Mississippi State needs the game. They've got the edge. What's Ole Miss got to play for? They're not going bowling. What do they care? Oh, they care. This is a rivalry game. There's no love. But in all of these rivalry settings, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Virginia Tech, Virginia, Iowa, Nebraska, Ohio State, Michigan, Florida State, Florida, Oregon State, Oregon. Go on down the list. Throw the records out. Teams come to play in these games. These are rivalry games. And for Ole Miss, even though they're not going bowling, this is going to be their last game of the season under Matt Luke, the coach, and for this Rebels team. This is their bowl game, quote unquote, this Egg Bowl. This becomes their bowl game. They have a chance with a victory to keep Mississippi State, their arch rival, the team they battle with for recruits in this state year in and year out. They have a chance on national TV because it's on ESPN. They have a chance to knock them out of a bowl game, keep them at 5 wins, and keep them from playing in a bowl and get bragging rights in this in-state rivalry. That's incentive to play if you're Ole Miss. So I don't want to hear anything about, Ole Miss is going to mail it in tonight because they're a 4-win team. They can't get to a bowl. This game is meaningless to them. No way. Not in rivalry weekend. You get this not in rivalry weekend when you're playing up against a team you have a history with, you have a massive dislike toward, and you have incentive to knock them out of a bowl game, which Ole Miss can. And like I say, I think Ole Miss, you know, offensively, I don't know if they're much better than Mississippi State. They're pretty close, these teams, offensively, but I think there's a defensive edge for Ole Miss. They've been good in the underdog role. I think they're actually slightly the better of these two teams, and it doesn't hurt that the road team has actually won 4 straight in this Egg Bowl series. This has been a road team-dominated recent series history in the Egg Bowl between Ole Miss and Mississippi State. So I took Ole Miss at plus 2.5. I missed the 3, and I'm pissed off that I missed the 3. Really, I am. But I got him at 2.5 a couple of days ago. It's moved down to 1.5. I would still say bet it, because I don't take a team at plus 2.5 if I don't think they're going to win the game. And obviously, I think Ole Miss is going to win this game. So if you miss the 2.5, I don't think it's the end of the world. I think you can still bet Ole Miss, a playable number right now at 1.5, the current number that is out there at a variety of books. So I like the Ole Miss Rebels here, getting the small road underdog price here in the Egg Bowl against Mississippi State. Let's see what the chat's got to say. Happy Thanksgiving, Arthur Mead says to the low baggers. Ian, Donnie Rightside, Natalie, Flash Watson, Jay Money, Ant, Jay from the Sports Keg, Jimmy the Bag, DJ Big Boss, and everyone else. Yes, and right back at you, Arthur. It's not my Thanksgiving because I'm Canadian, but I appreciate the sentiment for sure. And yeah, some years I do feel that this is my Thanksgiving too, even though I'm in Canada and I'm Canadian, because there have been some years where, even though this is not Canadian Thanksgiving, start to see people throughout the week in the States talking about Thanksgiving and turkey and all that, and it gets my stomach craving for a turkey leg or something turkey. So sometimes I go out and get a turkey on Thanksgiving. I didn't get a chance to this year, but some years it's just, you think about it and you're like, geez, Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving would be really nice to have a turkey today with all this talk about, people eating turkey. And sometimes I do that. Thanksgiving, even though I'm in Canada, Thanksgiving Thursday in the United States rolls around. I'm making my way to the grocery store. I'm getting a big old bird, a big old butterball, and get that turkey going. Sometimes, you see people talking turkey, you hear people talking turkey, and you just think, hey, that would be really nice right about now, and it's get you craving it a little bit. But nevertheless, thanks everybody for being here. 118 people on a Thanksgiving holiday, so that's good turnout so far. We really do appreciate it. Anyway, so I'm on Ole Miss in the college football game. Let's see if anybody's got opinions on that. Canadian Capper, 72. Lions starting another backup quarterback versus Bears defense. What is this Lions team total? Let me check that right now, actually, in terms of the team total here with the Lions. Obviously, you wouldn't expect it to be that high here. It's going to be a real struggle. We know David Blau out of Purdue, rookie quarterback. Never started a game before in the NFL, is going to be the man under center here for this game today for the Detroit Lions. We'll see how they're able to cope with it. Obviously, a very, very tough situation. Now, the good news is he's at home, but you're still going up against a playmaking defense, a very good defensive front. I know the Bears' defense at times this year looked a little susceptible, but they really have played better again the last few weeks, starting to look more and more like the defense we thought they would be coming into the season. And starting to play better. Let's not forget, they've been banged up a little bit on the defense. Akeem Hicks is a guy they really miss on that defensive end position for the Bears, and he's been out for a while. Danny Trevathan's the linebacker has battled injury as well. But finally, the last few weeks, they're starting to look a little bit more like that Bears defense. There's no question about it. Joe Anisi, hope all is well with Jimmy. Don't know how many more shows I can do without him. Yeah, I mean, it's a fluid situation with Jimmy. Hopefully he's going to keep in touch with either me or the folks at SBR, or let everybody know what's going on. All we know is he had to go home to tend to a personal family emergency. We wish him all the best, and we hope he pulls through it. He's a tough-minded hombre, Jimmy. That's the one thing I've come to know for the years that I've known him here since he's been with SBR. He can get through some tough circumstances, and we hope he's getting through this all right. We hope he's back here very, very soon to host this show. In the meantime, I'm happy to host for him. He's always says, Ian, I need you to host. He's almost like, what can I do? But I'm happy to do it for him. I really am, because I enjoy hosting the show. I really do. But at the same point in time, when Jimmy's back, I'm also happy because, doing this show an hour and a half, it's a marathon show. It really is. But I enjoy doing it. and I enjoy talking to everybody in the chat. So we are going to get to NFL in a few minutes. We're going to have our NFL guest joining us, Jason Paglia, 11:20. He'll be joining us to talk about the 3 NFL games. So I wanted to hit the college football game first. We did that. And now we're going to hit the NHL game. There's only one NHL game tonight. It's the New Jersey Devils, Montreal Canadiens. Montreal minus 160. Home favorites in this game. The total is 6, shaded to the over at minus 120, as the Montreal Canadiens try to pick themselves off the mat in a game that they tried to pick themselves off the mat. That's essentially what we're getting here with Montreal tonight. I think it's tough because Montreal's coming off the game against the New York Rangers where they were down 4-0. Or the Rangers, I should say, were down 4-0. They come back to win that game 6-5. In theory, that's supposed to be the next game for Montreal. You respond from a game like that, where you blow a 4-0 lead, you lose 6-5 to the New York Rangers. You're supposed to respond the right way after that. Unleash hell, huge effort, much more attention paid to the defensive end of the ice. Be a better team game. Come out strong, come out ready to roll, and Montreal did not do that the other night against Boston. In fact, it turned into an ugly, brutal, horrendous loss for the Montreal Canadiens the other night, losing 8-1 to the Boston Bruins in a spot where you thought you would get Montreal's A game, and you got anything but their A game. It was their D minus. It was their F game. It's not even a D minus game. It was their F game. It was a failure. They flunked. Is what happened the other night. And you could say all you want about how, Montreal came out strong in the first period. They did have a decent first period. It was 1-1. Boston got the first goal on a power play goal. Montreal came back, tied the game, and they were starting to take it to Boston a little bit after they tied that game. And at that time, they were playing pretty decent, actually. And then Boston got the 2-1 goal quickly, and then the roof caved in. And it's like the mental psyche of the team, which was fragile clearly after the New York game, just came back again. Those negative thoughts creeped into their game again. Here we go again. And 2-1 became 3-1, became 4-1, became 5-1, and the rest is history. Boston rolling to an 8-1 victory. So now, people, and I considered, Montreal as a play the other night. I didn't bet it, but considered, hey, they're probably going to show up, and somehow they didn't. And now, what is it? You were going to get fooled twice, maybe? We won't get fooled again. Are we going to get fooled again here by Montreal? This is another spot where, again, they're off a bad game, a bad performance. This is supposed to be, in theory, handicapping 101. Spot says Montreal here. Time to respond. After not only now blowing the lead to the New York Rangers over the weekend, but then just getting absolutely ambushed by the Boston Bruins 8-1 the other night. So that's definitely been the issue right here with this Montreal Canadiens team. Can we trust them this time, tonight, to respond the way they did not against the Boston Bruins the other night? I'm gonna say they do tonight respond. Because I sure as heck don't trust New Jersey. And New Jersey ain't Boston. Not even close. Not even close defensively. Offensively, they've been a disappointment as well, this New Jersey team, I'll be quite honest. I thought this would be a really high-scoring team with the players they have on this team, with Nico Hischier and a first overall pick, Jack Hughes, and Taylor Hall, and you bring in a PK Subban on the blue line who's an offensive-minded defenseman, and we just haven't seen that kind of offensive prowess from them. But the worst part of the team has been their defensive play. Defensive play has been bad. Penalty killing has been weak. Goaltending has been mediocre at best from anybody that's been in goal for them. Mackenzie Blackwood, Corey Schneider, and now, of course, it's going to be Louis Domingue now has been called up to the team. And even with him against the Minnesota Wild, him in net the other night, they couldn't get the victory against Minnesota. So it's just been nothing in all phases has clicked for this New Jersey Devils team. They haven't scored as much as I thought they would. Their defensive play has been brutal. Their goaltending's been suspect on a nightly basis. This, in theory, is a team Montreal should handle. Montreal is still better right now than this team. So I'm actually gonna look at Montreal here. It's not anything that I call a strong play. It's the only game on the card. You don't want to force things, but this is not Boston now. This is New Jersey, and now you've been humbled not once but twice in a row at home the New York game at home, the Boston game at home, and now Montreal is playing a third straight home game. They don't want to get humiliated and ridiculed for a third straight game at home. I'm going to go with Montreal, but not the puck line, and certainly not the money line. I'm not laying minus 160. That's above my price threshold. I'm going to go with Montreal in regulation here, which you can get around minus 110, even money. Pretty much. Montreal to win in regulation, win in 60 minutes, minus 110. I think this is a team that the Montreal Canadiens should be able to handle. And again, if this isn't their spot to turn it around, get back into form again and play better, I don't know what is. Because, again, New Jersey's not shown me any sort of consistency this season, and that's definitely going to be a concern for me moving forward here with New Jersey. I mean, it's just they'll win a game and they'll lose two. They'll win a game, they'll lose three more. It seems like there's 2 or 3 losses for New Jersey that follow every win that they get. That's been their issue all season long. There's just been no ability to get hot, string consistency together, string multiple good games and good performances together. So I'm going to try Montreal here, minus 110. I don't think I would have bet Montreal if I had lost with them, and I almost did take them against Boston, and I didn't. I'd probably be gun-shy about taking them tonight if I didn't bet them, or if I did, I should say, bet them against Boston. But because I did not take them against Boston, I laid off that. I'm going to go with Montreal in regulation, minus 110 tonight. Again, the one concern, and I see in the chat, Vincent K. Maxwell, reverse puck line Devils minus 1.5. There is a case to be made for New Jersey, and the case is they've dominated Montreal head-to-head. They really have. I mean, you look at the recent series history, it's been all Devils. You know, El Diablo has gotten the better of this Montreal team. In fact, just recently, I think it was a couple weeks ago, these two teams played against one another. New Jersey beat them, and it was here in Montreal. So, you know, series history does say that, you know, New Jersey's had the better of it against Montreal. I'm going against some strong series history by taking the Canadiens in regulation tonight, but I'm going to do it either way. I would think this is their A game tonight. We'll see if it is. Claudio S. saying, don't trust Price. He has been terrible. He has been not Carey Price-like. He's not been great. He's been abandoned, though, in a lot of games. I'm going to stop short of saying he's been terrible. He hasn't been great. He hasn't been good, but he's been abandoned by his defense in front of him. Poor penalty killing, poor puck management in the defensive zone, turnovers, miscues, bad body position too, has really plagued the Canadiens as well in a lot of these games in front of Carey Price. So I think Price hasn't been great, but I think a lot of it has been the players in front of him. But we'll see if Montreal can respond and answer the bell tonight after 2 just demoralizing losses at home, blowing the 4-goal lead to New York, and then a total no-show and a total annihilation at the hands of the Boston Bruins 8-1 the other night. So for me, I'm going to take a shot here. Montreal in regulation, minus 110, because in theory, if they're going to snap the skid, you know, a very, very meandering, mediocre New Jersey Devils team is probably a good place to start in terms of trying to turn things around. All right, let's move now to the NFL. This is the main event of this Thursday card for sure. It's always the main event when it's Thanksgiving Thursday. The 3 NFL games, the traditional Detroit 12:30 p.m. Eastern game, the traditional Dallas 4 p.m. Eastern game on Thanksgiving, and then what we've had, I think, for the last, 7 or 8 years, we've had a Sunday night game or a Thursday night game as well. On Thanksgiving. And of course, tonight that's Saints-Falcons. We're going to break all 3 of those games down right now. And we're going to do it with our NFL guest who's now joining me on the show, Jason Paglia. We welcome him to Betting with the Bag to talk these 3 NFL Thanksgiving Thursday games. Jason, how are you this morning? And welcome to the show.
What's up, Ian? How are we, brother?
Very, very good. Very good to have you with us, Jay. And Jay, I'm excited. Very, very excited about being on the live line on Sunday. I really am, because it's been long overdue. I'll be there for the Patriots and Texans on Sunday night. Very good AFC matchup. Should be a good one. Jay, 3 Thursday Thanksgiving NFL games to break down. Let's start with Detroit and Chicago. There's a lot to dissect here, isn't there, with this football game? I mean, my goodness, we've got David Blau, Purdue rookie quarterback, making his first ever NFL start here in this game, and people reacting to that clearly. This line opened, Chicago was a 1-point road favorite, like when it first opened late Sunday night. Now we're looking at Chicago 5.5. And even 6 is starting to pop up on the Bears here. This game kicking off in about an hour from now. The total's been hammered down, 41-37. You know this is a reaction to the news that David Blau is starting at quarterback for the Detroit Lions. It's probably a reaction in terms of the total, too, to a Chicago offense that we don't fully trust. I know they put things together in the second half against the New York Giants a little bit last week. It really was the first time we saw Mitch Trubisky and this offense, Jay, look a little bit cohesive, a little bit able to, make some plays down the field. He actually did make a couple nice throws in the second half after just an absolutely brutal, hideous first half from Mitch Trubisky and this Bears offense. I think the case could be made easily for Chicago when it was, 3.5, even 4. It's getting up there now, 5.5 with this Chicago team. It's still Trubisky and the offense on the road. I know the Lions have not been a very good defense at all. I think they're ranked somewhere, 26th, 27th in the NFL defensively, total defense. It's been ugly for the Lions on that side of the football. It's really an indictment, if you ask me, on Matt Patricia, a guy that's got defensive background, and he can't get this team to play a lick of defense on most weeks for this Lions team. The good news for them is it looks like, Snacks Harrison is going to play. There was some talk he may not, but he's been upgraded to probable. They need every ounce of help they can get, especially along that defensive front. Trey Flowers for the Lions has been banged up with a concussion. He was questionable last I looked with him. So they've had some key injuries on the defensive side of the football. Good news for Detroit is they found a little bit of a running game with Kerryon Johnson out. Bo Scarborough's come in recently, a former Alabama product, and actually run the football decently. Boy, they're going to have to hope Bo Scarborough has a good day. I know your props are your thing, Jay. Maybe Bo Scarborough is a guy you target today from a player prop standpoint, because you got to think Detroit's going to give him a lot of reps, touches, attempts, take some kind of pressure off this poor young rookie quarterback, David Blau, who's being thrown into a tough situation against a very good Chicago defensive front. So, I think the value's gone on Chicago. Certainly, if you haven't bet Chicago yet, I wouldn't bet it now at 5.5, but I certainly agree with the move, and if you got in early, good on you. Same with the total, 37. We've talked about this on the closing line NFL shows, Jay. It's tough to bet unders when they get down to as low as 37, despite the situation, because a pick six or a fumble six, or all of a sudden a big special teams return that puts your offense on a short field can change the dynamic completely. What's your thoughts, Jay, on this one? Lions taking on the Bears.
Yeah, I completely agree with you in terms of the total. I think if you see any kind of productive offense from Blau, they have a great shot to get over that total, because I do expect the Bears, as much as you and I and Donnie have killed them the last month on the closing line for the poor play of Mitchell Trubisky, I do think that they should be able to get off against this Lions defense, who's 24th in DVOA right now. And you can get a 6 right now at Bookmaker. You can even get a 6.5 at Bovada. So this line has moved a lot the last 24 hours. And it's tempting to take the 6.5 points at home on Thanksgiving Day with the Lions. And if Driscoll was in, I probably would have taken that 6.5. But, man, this game just looks like a giant pass. I think the Bears are the better team, even though I hate Mitchell Trubisky as a quarterback. I don't like him at all. But under the circumstances, I do think they probably sneak out a close win. I think if you want to take Detroit today, you just take a small money line play and just take the shot that maybe that this Bears team is so bad that they can't even beat Blau on the road against a Matt Patricia run team, who he's one of the worst 3 probably coaches right now in the Professional Football League. So I'm probably going to pass this game personally. I might sprinkle something on the Detroit money line as a flyer. My strongest lean would probably be to the over, because I think we probably see the Chicago Bears defense get a touchdown against this rookie quarterback at some point in this game, because they're still a top 5 defense. So I lean over probably going to stay away from the spread, even though I understand anybody that's taking the 6.5 with the Lions, because who are the Chicago Bears right now to lay 6.5 points to anybody, no matter what the circumstance is? I mean, they escaped last week with a 19-14 win against the Giants. They beat this Lions team a few weeks back only by a touchdown at home. So I lean over, and I might sprinkle something on the Lions money line just to take a shot.
All right, so lean over and maybe just a small little flyer, I guess, if you will, on the Detroit Lions money line for Jay in this one. Yeah, and I was a little fortunate. I had the Giants plus the points last week against Chicago. I'll take it. A little fortunate, needed the late score for the Giants to get there because they were down 19-7, and then they punched it in late to make it 19-14. But I'll take it, and my point was proven in that game with the result. It's hard to lay significant points with Chicago. It really is, and even in this game, now that it's 5.5, that's difficult. I know Detroit's got Blau. I know Detroit's defense has been a sieve most of the season, and a rookie quarterback starting. I get all of that. But it's still 5.5 now with the Chicago Bears laying significant points with a team that hasn't been covering these kind of numbers. Even with a good second half from Mitch Trubisky last week, they still couldn't cover in this kind of price range against the New York Giants last week. So, yeah, I mean, it's at the point now where I think you've missed the boat. Like, if you haven't bet Chicago now yet, and you want to bet them now, I don't know what you're thinking. I mean, first of all, you're taking a horrible number, and long term, that's not going to help you in this industry. And number two, you've still got a lot of question marks about whether they can cover in a price range like this, 5.5 on the road. Jay, I know you're big into player props with NFL. I look into them. Are any player props in this game appealing to you?
No, not in this Lions game at all. I just totally passed this game by. I didn't really look at anything. You know why? Because you just don't know what you're going to get. Actually, if I was going to bet one prop, I would probably take the sacks prop over. It's probably 4.5, I would think. I think both quarterbacks have a shot to go down in this game. But in terms of players, it's so hard when you have no idea what type of production that you're going to get from both these quarterbacks. It's such a wild card that it's just a pass that way. But do I think we could see a bunch of sacks today? Yeah, I do.
Yeah, the sacks prop definitely makes some sense there. All right, on we go to Buffalo and Dallas. In my opinion, this is probably the most intriguing game of the day for sure. Bills and Cowboys, we've got Buffalo here taking money. I mean, this opened, there were some 7.5s when the line first opened very early in the week, actually 8s even. At the very, very beginning when the line came out, there was a couple of 8s, 7.5s got cleaned out. The 7s have mostly been cleaned out other than 5 dimes, but you got to lay some juice if you want to take +7 there. And it's mostly 6.5 now with the Cowboys laying it at home on Thanksgiving, total 47. I know long-term Jason Garrett era of Dallas, laying points with Dallas at home on Thanksgiving, it's 50-50 at best. You haven't been cashing left and right with Dallas in these Thanksgiving home games. I'm personally on the Bills here. +7, and I know Buffalo is one of those teams where you can kill them all you want for weakness of schedule so far, and you haven't beaten anybody good. Well, other than Philadelphia, on a week where I think the Cowboys got riled up by Doug Peterson's comments going into that game, and Dallas played well. Other than that one win, who's Dallas beat? You could make the same argument about this Dallas Cowboys team as you can about the Buffalo Bills. So this is really a testing ground and a statement game kind of for both teams, because both of these teams are being questioned and criticized for not beating a slew of quality opponents. That's just the way it is. The Bills haven't beaten anybody good, and really other than that one win against Philly, Cowboys really haven't beaten anybody good this season. And to me, the Bills, I know it's Miami and Denver, okay? These are not good football teams the last 2 weeks, and it goes back to that argument where the Bills haven't beaten anybody good. I get that. But at least they were dominant. At least they were impressive in victory in those 2 games. And the offense with Josh Allen finally started to get going a little bit. And Singletary's been running the ball. And the defense has been tremendous these last 2 weeks. And when I look at this Dallas team, I look at them being susceptible at times to the run. They haven't been stopping the run as good as they've been. I look at Josh Allen's mobility against a Dallas defensive front that's supposed to be their strength. I look at that as a good thing for Buffalo, to have a mobile quarterback who, when the rush is coming on him, he can get out, break that pocket, make plays with his feet, and get out of trouble. Josh Allen's done that multiple times. I think he'll have that opportunity to do that again. And when you look at a coaching standpoint, normally the road team on a short week on a Thursday, Jay, they've got a major disadvantage. I look at Sean McDermott and I say, I think Sean McDermott's a coach that I think is going to have a team better prepared on a short week than Jason Garrett. I just think that. I think more of him as a coach than I do Jason Garrett. Clearly, Jerry Jones agrees with me because Jerry Jones is getting fed up and frustrated with Jason Garrett and this coaching staff based on his comments after the New England loss on Sunday. So the heat's there. They're dealing with the questions, too, about Jerry Jones' comments to the media about the head coach. That's a distraction the players don't need when they're trying to get ready for Buffalo on a short week. And remember, Buffalo's on the road, too, in this game. It's a chance to get away from family a little bit. It's just the team element that's with them here on this road trip, whereas Dallas has got the Jerry Jones distractions. They got the family distractions around the Thanksgiving holiday. I mean, just the external stuff, to me, outside of the matchup on the field, kind of favors Buffalo, at least in my opinion. So I took it at 7 earlier this week. There's still a 7 out there at 5 dimes if you like the Bills, 6.5 elsewhere. I think it's a single score game. I don't know about win the game outright, the Bills, but to me, Dallas is a dicey football team to trust laying points of this magnitude, just like we talked about with Chicago. I know Buffalo's got the strength of schedule issues, but so does Dallas. And I think Buffalo's defense, which I think is capable. Like Buffalo hasn't given up more than 26 points in a game this year. We got to give that Bills defense some credit. I think that defense can keep them in this game. What's your thoughts, Jay, on this one, the Bills in Big D against the Cowboys?
Well, I think you framed the game perfectly. It really is a statement game for both of these teams. Are the Buffalo Bills for real? Can they beat a much better opponent than they have in recent weeks? And for the Dallas Cowboys, listen, Jason Garrett should have been fired a long time ago, right? We both agree on that. But I'm not going to kill them for losing by 4 points on the road in New England when New England's a 10-1 football team right now. And that they were home against the Vikings when they lost that game by 4, but Prescott was phenomenal in that game. This offense is phenomenal. You and I talk about it every week on the closing line. Dallas's offense is the number 2. Going into last week, they were the number 1 offense in the league. They slipped a little bit in the rankings. They're number 2 right now in offensive efficiency ratings. I think, man, this is a tough game because the Bills have been an enigma to me all season. I just can't get games that they play in right because they're an 8-3 football team with an awful offense. Like they're 22nd right now in offensive DVOA, and they have a top 10 defense. I think that the Bills defense, the eye test, is even better than where they're rated in most ratings that I see. But it's so hard for me to judge what this team is at 8-3 because, historically, especially over the last decade in the new NFL, good teams have good offenses, and this team does not, man. So I think if I had to guess, I would squeak. I think the game probably goes under the total. It opened at 45. It's at 47 right now, pretty much across the board. I think we probably see that go under the total. And if I was going to play a side in this game, man, there's so much on the line for this Dallas Cowboys team right now. And historically, if you have taken the road team on a Thursday, you have gotten killed. I really think that the Dallas Cowboys need to make a statement more than the Buffalo Bills right now. And I completely understand anybody that took that touchdown with Buffalo. I just have a feeling that Dallas really shows up and shows out today. But I've been so bad, man, picking a game against these Buffalo Bills. A couple props, though. I will probably be more invested in the prop market in this game than a side or a total. I think a very underrated wide receiver is Michael Gallup. And at 3.5 receptions. I think he's a bigger part of this team than people realize. I think that there's a great chance for him to go over 3.5 receptions. And Dak Prescott rushing yards is 12.5. That Buffalo front seven is going to get after him. They're going to force him out of the pocket at some point, probably 2 or 3 times this game. I think 12.5 yards is a little cheap with how good Dak Prescott is at evading pressure, and he's able to go downfield. So those are 2 props that I'll probably be looking at. They really have the Cooper props and the Zeke props juiced up these days. I might take a flyer on like a first touchdown prop, but I like those 2 props specifically. I will probably have money on them, and I'm probably not going to bet the side or total in this game as of right now, but I might lay it. I might lay the 6 points right now with the Dallas Cowboys. I completely get why you're on Buffalo. I just have this feeling that Dallas really needs to show up. And I know under Garrett, when they really need to show up, they normally don't. But I think this offense is different than the offense that they've had the last few years. Prescott has really come into his own this year. And, the numbers show it. Number 2 offense in the league against a really good defense. I think the offense wins out today.
All right, we'll see if this is a very interesting game. And certainly if you like Dallas, it won't hurt you to wait. Because, again, we've seen a steady trickle of Buffalo money all week long, and it's down to 6.5 right now. So no reason to rush if you like Dallas. There's a couple props I like in this game as well. I really like it because Josh Allen has found some chemistry with him. We're waiting for one of these Bills receivers all season long to step up and consistently help out Josh Allen in the passing game. For the Bills lately, that's been John Brown. He's been really good, has had 3 touchdown catches in his last 2 games. Was excellent in the game against Denver last week for this Bills offense. I took John Brown over receptions. I took John Brown anytime touchdown, which is plus 137 at Bet365. Again, shop around for some of these prices, but I think John Brown can get in the end zone. Again, 3 touchdown receptions for John Brown in the last 2 weeks. I think his props are worth a look, and I also like Josh Allen's. And I like your Dak Prescott rushing yards. I think both quarterbacks are going to be forced to run with the football in this game today. So I think I would not argue with Dak Prescott over rushing yards in this game, and I wouldn't argue from a Bills perspective with Josh Allen over 35.5 rushing yards. I think it's very, very possible Josh Allen's going to have to do a lot of running today because we know Dallas, that defensive front can collapse the pocket. So I think either of those quarterbacks, Allen and Prescott, over rushing yards worth a look. I like John Brown props today over receptions, anytime touchdown, and if you really want to go for value, first touchdown, John Brown plus 1,000. What a price that is there, 10-1 for John Brown to score the first touchdown, Bills receiver. So those are the props I'm looking at in that game. Jay, considering Dallas, and I am on Buffalo plus 7 in this one. New Orleans, Atlanta, Thursday night football. We've got the Saints minus 6.5, road favorites total 48.5 in this one. I like the situation here for the Saints coming into this game, and it's been a very, very difficult exercise and assignment to figure out what Atlanta team shows up week to week. Was it the Atlanta team that looked impressive 2 weeks in a row, or was it the Atlanta team that reverted back into the we're going to send Dan Quinn packing at the end of the season Atlanta Falcons? They reverted back to that team last week against Tampa Bay. A really poor game for the Falcons, and I think losing that game maybe finally takes the air completely out of this Falcons balloon. I know it's the Saints at home on Thanksgiving night. Maybe that riles them up, but I would expect the Saints to be riled up big time for this game because they lost to Atlanta a couple weeks ago in the Superdome off a bye. They were rolling going into the bye, and they came out of that bye flat as a pancake. It was their worst game of the season by far for the Saints against Atlanta. It's a revenge spot for them, I think, and they're not happy. If you read the quotes from Breeze, Peyton, many of the Saints players after that escape against Carolina on Sunday, they weren't happy with their performance. They weren't. They said we were sloppy, or we can be a whole lot better. They were angry. It sounded like an angry team, Jay. It sounded like a team that lost on Sunday as opposed to win
Yeah.
after that game against Carolina. I think they take it out on Atlanta and get the job done here. As long as you can lay less than 7, there are still 6.5s out there. I like the Saints. I think they can win by at least a touchdown here. Jay, what's your thoughts on the nightcap, Saints-Falcons?
I think you nailed it. I think the fact that they escape Carolina with that 3-point loss really sets them up well in this game. Like you said, it's a revenge spot, even though in the National Football League, revenge spots don't mean anything like they do in like college football. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But they are not a fan of losing 26-9 against a team that has 2 wins, right? And when we talk about the Saints team, despite all the trials and tribulations, me and you talked about this last Sunday, despite Kamara being out for a month, despite losing Breeze for 6 weeks, here the Saints are fully healthy, a 9-2 football team ready for another serious playoff push. I have a considerable amount of money on the Saints money line today and a little less money on the Saints to cover this game. I think it is not. I understand that they're on the road, and I understand that the Falcons have looked really good 2 out of the last 3 or 4 weeks, but that's the anomaly. They've played 11 games. This team has looked like complete garbage all year long. Every offense in the National Football League that they've played has basically gotten right against this Falcons team this year. And I still feel like there is a gigantic chip on the Saints' shoulder, and I still feel that they have a lot to prove coming off that NFC Championship game last year where they got robbed. I really, really like this Saints game today. I think that they are going to put on a show. I think that we could easily see this team win by more than a touchdown, maybe even 2. I think who else do you want in the room than Sean Payton to try and figure out what an offense did wrong 3 weeks ago and what they can do better today? And I just don't see a situation where this Falcons team is within a touchdown late in this football game, man. I really don't. Prop-wise, I'll probably be looking at Alvin Kamara anytime touchdown. I'll tell you, I love his longest reception prop. I think is over 13 yards. And with Kamara coming out of the flat or a screen pass, I think we can easily see him have a reception tonight that is longer than 13 yards. I might take a shot on Michael Thomas, 2 or more touchdowns at 5-1. I think you can get a price there on him. He's best wide receiver in the National Football League right now in terms of production. So that's where I'm looking, man. I'm on the Saints tonight, big.
Saints big money line, a smaller play on the spread, -6.5 for Jay, and he's liking some of those props. Alvin Kamara over longest reception. I'm telling you what, if you're looking at Alvin Kamara props, and as someone that does play the player props market, especially with the primetime games, I don't really do it a ton for the 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock games. I do it a lot more for the primetime games. I will find the odd 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock game where, there's a prop that stands out, I'll bet it. I focus more on them as the primetime standalone games. If you're going to bet Alvin Kamara props, you're doing yourself a disservice just looking at rush yards with him, even though he's a running back. You have to consider the rush and receiving yards. You have to consider the receptions props because he is used a ton in this Sean Payton offense, catching the football out of the backfield. They use him as that outlet safety valve type of option for Drew Brees in the short passing game, and they use him basically, as another receiver at times. So again, with Kamara, a running back like that who is just as effective if catching the ball as he is running it, Russian receiving yards or receptions or longest reception, those are good ones to look at. I think just going with rush yards, you're not doing too well with Alvin Kamara. But if you're looking at the receiving end of his game, that's where you can make some money with Alvin Kamara in particular when it comes to the player props. All right, Jay, this was a great breakdown. Good stuff on all three NFL games on this Thursday card. Obviously, you're going to be hosting the live line again all weekend long. Tell us the show schedule for the live line. I will be there Sunday night for Patriots Texans, the Sunday Night Football live line show. I'm excited for that. Tell us more, Jay, about live line and when we can watch it right here on SBR YouTube.
Yeah, man. It's a live betting show Thursday through Monday. Flash and Max and myself will be on tonight, even though it's Thanksgiving. We'll be on for the Thursday night game. Friday schedule will be on tomorrow at 7 o'clock. We usually go till like midnight, 1 a.m. We'll be live betting college football and mostly NBA. Saturday, we'll be on for Arizona State. And one more game, I think. We'll be on at 7 o'clock till about midnight Saturday. Sunday, we have two shows. Ian and I are on the closing line on Sunday with Donnie. Right after that, we have the early Sunday show where we'll be live betting the NFL early games. We'll take a break for a couple hours. Sunday night, Ian makes the live line debut for the Patriots-Texans game. Looking forward to that. We started tracking the record last week, and since Monday, the show's up 41 units and 38 and 25. Everything's going good, man. We've been killing it. I can't thank SBR enough for the opportunity. So I'll see you guys later on tonight with Max and Flash. Thanks, Ian, very much. I appreciate it, buddy. And happy Turkey Day to everybody in the States.
All right, absolutely. Great stuff, Jay. And yeah, I'm going to be bringing more player props to that Patriots-Texans Sunday night show than you can shake a stick at. So you better be ready for that. I'm looking forward to it. I'll be there Sunday night on the live line. Make sure you're watching that all weekend. If you're just kicking around, watching the games, tune into the live line, all right? They're talking the games, they're making in-game bets, and if you heard Jay just now, they're winning with these in-game bets. Make sure you check it out. Live line. Weeknights, Thursday, every primetime NFL game, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they'll be on taking you through the night in sports betting from a live wagering perspective. Live line right here, hosted by Jay on the SBR channel. Jay, great stuff. Happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the football. Enjoy the turkey. Enjoy everything that you've got going on this Thanksgiving Thursday. Good luck today. Have a great one.
Thanks, brother. I'll see you Sunday.
See you Sunday indeed. All right, there he is. Jason Paglia joining me to talk NFL football. We go from NFL football to college basketball. And I'll tell you what, it's a holiday. It's not a holiday for college basketball fans. It's not a holiday for college basketball bettors. This is a big card. Well, it's not a big card, but it's a big game card. There's some really good matchups here. Davidson, Marquette, Michigan, North Kakalaki, Gonzaga, Oregon. Some really, really good matchups taking place on the college hardwood today. Nobody better to break it down with than my fellow Canadian here, Maxwell Smart. He's a college basketball fiend. That's what I call him. He's a college basketball fiend. He loves this sport. He plans all year for it, and he's ready to join us here on Betting with the Bag to break down the Thursday college basketball card. Max, my friend, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing good, Ian. I'm glad to be here with you, and I'm glad that we can break down this card early in the morning when we got a beautiful afternoon slate. And like you said, there are some gems to bet and watch today, and I'm fiending to get some action in. So let's get right into it, bud.
All right, well, it's tipping off in a couple of minutes, and, you're one of those people. I can throw out Houston Baptist at you. I can throw out Central Arkansas at you, and you'll be able to give a good opinion on it. So any game, any team, I know we can bring up with you, and you're ready to rock with some kind of thought on the game. So we'll throw the game that's going to start in about 7 minutes out to you. Texas, Arlington, and Elon. We've got UTA laying 10 in this game, total 133. Did you do anything with this game, Max?
Yeah, I actually jumped on the over in this game, Ian, at 132.5. This is a spot where I think that Elon's playing in their home building, and I think that's going to be advantageous for them. I think with UT Arlington coming off such a crippling loss to Furman yesterday, where they were up double digits and just coughed up the lead in the second half, I think that laying 10 or 11 points was completely out of the question. Also, this is a game that's playing in Elon's Elon's building, so they should have a good rowdy student section, hopefully on this Thanksgiving Day. And obviously, shout out to everybody who's celebrating Thanksgiving in the States. Wish you happy Thanksgiving. But with this UT Arlington team, they're going to rely on Brian Warren. They're going to rely on David Azori, who's been shooting the three fantastic. But I do question the depth of this UTA team, and I do think that Elon, coming off playing some tough opponents, they have some value to me. I think that obviously you need Marcus Sheffield to have a better shooting performance than 1 for 7 like yesterday, and I think that you need your Hunters, Hunter Woods and Hunter McIntosh, to be able to shoot from the perimeter. I think Elon's able to stay within the number, but I did like the over at this 132.5, and that's what I played in this game.
All right, playing the over 133, Texas, Arlington, and Elon. We've got Texas A&M taking on Harvard. We got Harvard laying 2.5, 3 points in this game, total 129. Aggies and Crimson, Max, what do you got for this one?
Yeah, this is a real interesting spot. I actually made this one of my official betting with the bag plays on the overnight lines. I took Harvard at -1.5. I simply think that this is a Harvard team, first off, that's played on the road. They played in a neutral court environment. They played on unfamiliar rims, where Texas A&M, I believe that this is the first actual game outside of their home arena. I think that also, when it comes to Texas A&M, this is a transition year. And what have we seen from Buzz Williams in transition years when he accepts a new job? There are growing pains with the basketball team. And I think that players like Wendell Mitchell and Savion Flagg are having those types of issues. I think that I'm very critical of where they're going to be getting scoring early on. I'm worried about Harvard being able to hit threes against them. This is a team that shoots 35% from the line, and they'll give you opportunities to make them, but I just don't have any faith in Texas A&M, who's only making four a game. I think that Harvard has the advantage when it comes to the free throw line, but the asterisk beside that is watching them against Buffalo live, they play so much isolation ball. There's a lot of different guys that can do a lot of different things and score. Guys in the front court, guys in the back court, but Bryce Aiken takes a lot of shots. He handles the ball a lot, and that could be a hindrance against a very stingy Texas A&M three-point defense. In the end, I thought that Harvard was the side to play. I had a good enough edge with my created line, and that's what I bet.
All right, looking at Harvard against Texas A&M. Is it crazy for me to think that maybe Virginia Tech may I know Buzz Williams left Virginia Tech, but I think they got a great replacement in Mike Young. I think Mike Young is going to do a great job there. I mean, to think about the fact that roster was gutted after Buzz Williams left, Mike Young takes over at Virginia Tech after great years at Wofford, did a great job with the Terriers there. And then you see the success they've had. They've been competitive in every game. It was a rough game for them last night a little bit against BYU, but it was one of those consolation games in a neutral court tournament. You sometimes have to take those with a grain of salt. I love the hire that they got. I think Virginia Tech long term will be just fine, and certainly the win against Michigan State opened a lot of eyes toward the Hokies and Mike Young with what he's done early in the season with a roster that's just very, very young there in Blacksburg. Next game we've got, this is one of the better ones today, Max. Michigan, North Carolina. Michigan has taken some money. North Carolina opened 3.5, total 147 in this game. I had some major concern. I looked at Michigan as a bit of a bet against, honestly, coming into the season. Juwan Howard transition from John Beilein. I wasn't sure that was going to be smooth coming into the season. They've sort of exceeded my expectations, at least for the first 3-4 weeks of the college basketball season here. I've been impressed with Michigan. They've played well. They're ready to handle North Carolina. I'll tell you what, North Carolina, 20 turnovers yesterday in the win against Alabama. It was one of those track meet up and down games. It was very frustrating that game stayed under the total. I liked it over. If North Carolina doesn't turn the damn ball over so much and there was not as many missed layups, there were tons of missed bunnies at the rim, that game probably goes over the total because it was a blistering pace, but unfortunately too many missed shots, too many turnovers kept that game under with North Carolina, Alabama yesterday. Certainly Roy Williams is going to crack the whip and say you can't turn the ball over that much here in this game today, but it's a great matchup, great gauge to see where these teams are. Michigan, North Carolina laying 3.5, 147 the total. Max, what do you got with this game?
Yeah, this is a spot that I actually want to watch and bet live because I want to see what kind of effort we're going to get from North Carolina on the offensive glass. You got to keep in mind that there's 3 or 4 guys in this front court that can get you 10 rebounds a game. I think that's an advantage that they have to use against Michigan. And the other thing with Michigan is, what do you do with John Teskey? Because if John Teskey's getting fed the ball and you can't get him into foul trouble and get him off the court, I think that's going to be a major difference in this game. I think that he's a difference maker for this team. And as far as the side, I think that North Carolina's got to be the spot. Cole Anthony's the kind of guy that can get his scoring whenever he wants. He had a pretty shaky game yesterday, even though he was able to distribute, and defensively he had 4 steals. But against this Michigan team, I'm still not a believer in them. I don't believe that they have the depth. I think that they rely on Xavier Simpson and Eli Brooks a little too much in the backcourt. Franz Wagner coming back and playing his first game, he looked like he was out of place. And I think that North Carolina is able to get the win today, but it's definitely something at the number right now that I'm going to be looking to make a live bet on.
All right, waiting to see if a live betting opportunity pops up with that one. But that's a good game to watch, definitely. One of the many that are very intriguing viewing in college basketball today. By the way, if you're wondering what order I'm going in with the games, I'm going in order of when they start. I'm going from the earliest game to the latest game. I'm not going in rotation order, in case you're wondering. So the next game up, 2 p.m. Eastern, Providence, Long Beach State. We've got Providence laying 16 and a half. You know, this Friars team, for years, Max, I've cashed in with them in competitively lined games. Underdog roles. They've been very, very good in that kind of price range and point spread range over the years. This Providence Friars squad, the team that usually is pretty physical, plays good defense, and that kind of makeup. Laying 16 and a half is a little bit of a different proposition, though, with Providence. Not saying they can't, but it's usually, in theory, more points than I'm comfortable laying with Providence. Can Long Beach State hang in there with the Max? Total 146 in this game.
Yeah, I think that Long Beach State can hang in with them. I think that it's, first off, they're coming off a tough game against Arizona. And I think that offensively, Providence and Arizona are on very different levels. I think that Providence has shown a little bit of a reliance on front court scoring and really playing some slow down isolation basketball. And we have to keep in mind that we thought that Luwani Pimpkins was going to come in and he was going to be a dominant scorer, be like close to a 20 point per game scorer, and he hasn't been that. The other issue is with Providence is David Duke and AJ Reeves have been less than stellar, and I think that Malik White has had the opportunity to step up. I just don't know what to expect from this Providence team in this point range. We saw how they got upset by Northwestern. We've seen Long Beach State play competitively like the game against St. Mary's, but also get blown up by Stanford. But at this point, with Emmett Holt only playing 19 minutes a game and Nate Watson only in his second game back from injury, and you can tell that he had rust yesterday or the day before, I can't remember. But I think that this Providence team is just a team that I cannot take at that point range. I'd be looking at taking Long Beach on the first half and then readjusting once we get to halftime.
All right, so maybe Long Beach first half look for Max in that game. Scoring update, by the way, we do have a game that tipped off before the show started, or as the show started. Maryland and Temple. Temple with a 5-point lead, 34-29 at halftime. Maryland closed a 9.5-point favorite in that game. So Temple catching 9.5 in a good spot, 34-29. But as we saw with you-know-what game, Seton Hall, Oregon last night, no game is over at halftime. There's a long way to go in this basketball game, but so far, Temple leading Maryland 34-29 at the half in that one. Next game, 2 p.m. Eastern tip, Tennessee State, Cal Poly. Tennessee State, 7-point favorites here. Total 138 and a half in this one. Any opinion on this game, Max?
Yeah, this is a game where I'm taking Tennessee State or nothing. I'll respect that Cal Poly can definitely cover some numbers, but I would like them better when they're getting 20 points or more. This is a Tennessee State team that obviously isn't going to wow you offensively. They're going to win grinded out type of games, but if anything, I believe that we're going to get more of the type of performance that we saw against Lipscomb. It was only a 1-point win, but it was a good win for them. You know, they won on the glass, and that's very important for this Tennessee State team. And I think that it's going to be critical for guys like Michael Littlejohn and Wesley Harris to get off. Wesley Harris and Carlos Marshall, those are the two and three guys that start in the starting lineup. They went over 12 in the last game. You can't have that. There has to be a concerted effort to get on the glass, get get the defensive rebounds and really get it out in transition and push Cal Poly into a pace that they're not wanting to really get into. With Cal Poly, I think that you really got to put clamps down on Tuka Jakola. Obviously, I may have butchered his name, and I apologize for that, but the 6'10" Finnish forward is someone that you really have to worry about. This is a guy that I think can protect the rim, can stop you from getting the kind of penetration that Tennessee State wants to do. And I think that if this game comes down to free throws, then we're going to be in trouble if we're on Tennessee State. But I'm capped this game, and I created a line thinking that it's not going to be impacted. And I think that Tennessee State's going to be able to get us a 7-point cover.
All right, Tennessee minus the 7. Max looking at that side in that one. All right, next game up, we got NC State taking on Memphis. Interesting matchup here. Memphis getting a lot of hype, but we know the Weissman issue has been flying around their heads with him being suspended. We got NC State 1.5-point favorites, 154 the total. You know, that is definitely a total that you would expect with Memphis. You know, Penny Hardaway wants to run. That's the way this Tigers team likes to play. And to be honest, NC State with Kevin Keats, you know, that's their style too. This should be a pace game. This should be a high-flying game. Now, the problem is I got into trouble with North Carolina, Alabama, thinking these are two teams that want to play fast. Look out, there's going to be a lot of points here, and the game ended up staying under the total. So you do have to be careful. These are still, situations where, even though it looks like both teams are going to want to push pace, you still have to make shots. You still can't turn the ball over and have empty possessions. That's always something that you got to look at as well in your handicap. But just from a pure pace perspective, you're going to see a lot of it in this game. NC State 1.5, 154 the total. Max, what do you like here? Wolfpack and Tigers.
Yeah, I like the Wolfpack. I bet them at -1.5, and I got it at -110. This is my thinking with this NC State team. First off, Memphis also, in addition to not having Wiseman, now they lost Lester Quinos. I can't pronounce his last name, but he's a freshman guard, and he's averaging double digits. So you take him out of the lineup now with a broken hand, that puts even more pressure on Alex Lomax, Tyler Harris, and Boogie Ellis to pick up some scoring. I think that Precious Ochoa is an all-American type player, and I think now between now and the beginning of conference season, we're going to see that exhibited even more. But in this game, I think NC State's front court is underrated. Manny Bates, Jericho Helms, Pat Andre, the Lehigh transfer, DJ Funderbook. Like, you got a lot of guys that can do work, and then that takes a lot of pressure off the guys in the backcourt like Braxton Beverly and CJ Bryce, who are your best three-point shooters. I think that there's just a lot of different offensive advantages that NC State's going to have in this particular matchup, and also they're better at the free throw line. I think that they play better three-point defense, and I think that also they're ready for a test. They haven't had a real test like Memphis has had, like against their game against Ole Miss, but I think NC State rises to the occasion today and puts a beating on a young Memphis team.
All right, NC State is the short favorite for Max in that one. USC Fairfield, we've got the Stags taking some money out of one of my favorite small conferences, the Metro Atlantic. I can't get enough Metro Atlantic basketball. Can't wait. It's one of the conferences I personally focus on quite a bit, even though it can be ugly at times, some of the ball in the MAAC. We've got USC 13.5-point, 14-point favorites here, 130 the total. 5-1 start, Randy Enfield's team, but betting markets not buying USC here in this game as the money's come in on Fairfield. Max, what do you like here, USC Fairfield?
Yeah, I like Fairfield in this spot because I just don't trust USC. I don't trust USC in unfamiliar arena. I don't trust the backcourt rotation that's going on right now. I don't understand why Quinn Nadelish, the Columbia transfer, and Daniel Toomey aren't playing more minutes. I think that they're better than a guy like Elijah Weaver, and even to an extent McLaughlin. I think that you have a heavy reliance on three-point shooting where I don't think it's a really big strength for them. I think that with this Fairfield team, the key is Jesus Cruz coming off the bench. What's he going to be able to do? I like him as like a firecracker type of starter, and he plays starter minutes. He's the guy that's leading this team this year now that Neftali Alvarez is over at Mercer. And I think that with him and Landon Talifero, you're going to need good perimeter shooting. You need to get to the free throw line because you cannot get to the free throw line under 10 times a game and cover a number versus USC. You got to be good on the glass because what are they going to do? They're going to send the freshman phenom Obongu. Excuse me, I mispronounced his name. Sorry, Ian. But
that's okay. There's a billion players that we got to remember their names.
It's going to be a hard spot for them to actually cover. So I like the dog in this spot.
All right, like in Fairfield. Someone in the chat asked, let me bring it up here, a question about Doug Barnhouse. I caught this out of the corner of my eye here, and I apologize. I'm not as good at Jimmy as keeping up with the chat. I admit that fully, but I did see someone ask about the total. Ask Max about the total in the Tennessee State Cal Poly game. Did you have a thought at all on the total in that game?
Yeah, I liked it when it was at 134.5. Now that it's up to 138 or 137, I think that like we missed the best of the line, and I don't think that I can tell you to take it right now. But for one thing, I'm not going to be telling you to take any unders today. That's fucking for sure.
All right, good stuff. This is probably the game of the day now. Next up, 4 p.m. Eastern. It should be what I like to call a humdinger. That would be this game. Gonzaga, Oregon. We've got Gonzaga 3.5-point favorites, 143 the total. This total's been hammered up from 138 to 143. Interesting move with this total. We know Oregon the last few years under Dana Altman, they don't push pace, and they're a pretty good defensive team. But people liking points in this game. Gonzaga, we know, likes to push it. So it's a battle of tempo a little bit in this game. But it should be a great game. We know Gonzaga under Mark Few. What else is new? They look just as, like once again, a team that's going to go deep in the NCAA tournament. Absolutely fantastic team. And keep in mind, I believe Tilly hasn't even played yet this year for Gonzaga. Oregon, what can you say about last night? The question for Oregon here, Max, is going to be the spot. Do you have anything left in the tank after you came back from the dead against Seton Hall, down double digits in that game? You rally all the way back to win and beat the Pirates last night to advance to this game. Is there anything left in the tank for Oregon here? I'm definitely not someone that likes to bet against Oregon at all, especially when they're catching points. We saw what Oregon did last year, get hot in the Pac-12 tournament. Great deep NCAA tournament run, bowing out to Virginia, and even then, no shame in that. They gave Virginia everything they could handle in that game. There's a good Oregon team. Peyton Pritchard back, the ringleader, the point guard leading this team, experienced, just a great leader. He willed that team to win last night, in my opinion. Great comeback. Do they have anything left in the tank? That's my concern about taking Oregon, but Oregon is an underdog. That's not the point spread range. That's not a profile I have any interest going against Oregon, with all due respect to Gonzaga. That's a tough number for me to want to go against this Oregon team with, but it's a great game. I'll be watching it for sure. I know, Max, you will be as well. Gonzaga, Oregon, arguably the game of the day in college basketball. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I'm wearing my Oregon hat. It's not one of the prettiest ones, but you know what? After they helped me out last night, hit them live on the money line, hit them on the show as the play of the day, I got to freaking go back to the well. But it's not just because I'm being a fanboy. It's because there's injury concerns now with this Gonzaga team. First off, they didn't cover the 25 points for Southern Miss yesterday. Second off, Admon Gilder may not play today. He's having some injury issues. Same with Ryan Woolridge. So I don't think that either of them are going to be at 100%. And then they also lost freshman Anton Watson to an injury a minute into the game. So then you add without killing Tilly, and you're putting a lot of freaking reliance on Corey Kispert and Philip Petrusev. And I think also the young Frenchman Joel Ajay, who had a really good game yesterday. I think that Oregon is the spot to go, is the spot to jump on at plus 3.5. I think that it's a great number. And also, Anthony Mathis only got off 5 shot attempts yesterday. I don't think that Seton Hall is going to be – I don't think that Gonzaga is going to replicate the perimeter defense and face guarding that they did on Anthony Mathis the way that Seton Hall did yesterday. I think Anthony Mathis is going to be able to get a shot off. I think he's going to go off. He's one of the most dangerous, potent three-point shooters, especially on the West Coast now. And it's just going to be a matter of what you get from the front court in Francis Okoro and Shakir Juice. Shakir Juicin had the critical game freaking winning bucket last night, and I think that they come to play. They get up for this Gonzaga game, even though it's a short turnaround. I'll be taking Oregon, and I jumped on the over early this morning, and got a very favorable number.
All right, so got on the over at a better number than what's out there now, but liking Oregon when you can get 3.5. There's a 4.5 at a couple places as well, so make sure you shop around. But Oregon is the dog, is the way Max is going in that game. Next game also at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, Wake Forest College of Charleston. Big move in this game. Wake Forest opened 2.5. Charleston now laying 3 in this game, 140 the total. Danny Manning's like that cat with 9 lives. I don't know how he keeps getting another life. I'm shocked he's still the coach here with this Wake Forest team, and I think people are seeing what I'm seeing in this game. You're putting Wake Forest in the favorite role. You got to be, and wanting to bet them. You better be asking yourself what you're doing exactly, because this program to me has been a disaster under Danny Manning. It hasn't gotten any better for the Demon Deacons. I've already tried betting against this team a couple of times this season. I think against Charlotte, and Charlotte rewarded me in that game. I just don't like this Wake team very much at all. And the fact that they're laying points, I could totally see why we've had a flip of favorites here in this game. I'm not a Wake Forest fan. I'm not a Danny Manning fan. I'm shocked he's still the coach here. It makes sense that Charleston's taking money. Do you agree with this move, Max, with Charleston laying it against Wake?
I actually don't agree with the move. I think that this game pretty much relies on what the health of Shondy Brown's ankle is going to be. And if he plays, I think that this Wake Forest team can shock us. Let's be frank. Like that Davidson game, it was a rivalry game. It was an in-state game. They had like a neutral court setting for it, but they played really well. I think that against Charlotte, yeah, that was a bad spot and a bad number for them. But I don't know. I think that this Charleston team's already shown me that they're not as dominant without Jarrell Brantley, and Jarrell Brantley was a difference maker. You know, we look at a team like Oklahoma State who beat them quite handily. What do? They really dominated on the defensive glass. They limited possessions, and they forced Charleston into turnovers and really face guarded Grant Riller really well. And then the UCF game, that was a freaking debacle, blowing that lead to UCF. I'm a little gun shy to hit Charleston as a favorite now, but when they were a dog, that's a play that I would have made and tailed anybody that was selling it on.
All right. So maybe a little look to Wake here for Max in this game. Next up, North Florida, LIU, Brooklyn. This is definitely a Maxwell Smart wheelhouse game. Very small conference basketball here. We've got North Florida, LIU, Brooklyn. North Florida, 3.5, 4-point favorites in this game. The total's moving up as we speak, Max. It opened 152.5 up to 154 in this game. Osprey, Blackbirds. What do you got for this one?
Yeah, this is a spot where I took LIU overnight. This is a LIU Shark team that I am very smitten over. I get to watch their streams for free. I enjoy Raekwon Clark. I'm so glad that he got another year of eligibility, because with him and Tyler Flowers and Jahan Augusto, I think that you have a nice trio of guys that do a little bit of everything. And with Raekwon Clark, he's just a potent scorer. My issue with North Florida is I don't know what's going on with Garrett Sams. I'm not seeing any injury information on him, but he hasn't played in a couple games, and we've seen the results. Although they covered the spread versus Creighton in Iowa, I think that in a game like this where the line is more favorable towards them, they're going to need his services. And the key for North Florida, and I keep on saying this on every show that I go on, is Wahid Aminu. If he's on the floor and he's guarding the rim, you can really stop a lot of penetration. That's what LIU wants to do. They want to get on the glass. They want to get a rebound with Tyler Flowers, and they want to push it. So I expect LIU to be able to get their pace tonight. as far as this total, I would have been looking at it, but now that I've seen this movement, you're just getting the ass end of the line, and that's not going to be plus even long term. But I think LIU is able to get their pace. I think they'll be able to play good enough perimeter defense to force North Florida to rely on the three-point line, and I think that they're going to be able to possibly win this game. I'm not saying to go out and bet the money line, but it's across the country. I believe it's in Vegas, and I think that LIU's just really done a good job in this underdog status. They have the cover against URI. They have the cover against George Mason. They have the cover against San Diego State. So coming off a 30-point loss to Texas Tech, I expect a much better performance, and I expect them to reward me with a plus 4.5 cover.
Yeah, and I know it too about this LIU team as an underdog. I think a few times in the NEC tournament last year, I was able to get on them as an underdog, and they were good in that role. So a good matchup of ASUN versus NEC with North Florida taking on LIU Brooklyn. Next game up, we've got this is an interesting one. Davidson and Marquette. We've got Marquette 3-point favorites, 140 the total. Marquette, one of the most exciting players in college basketball, of course. Marcus Howard, who's had a tremendous career there with the Golden Eagles. Davidson, is it okay, Max, to maybe say this has been a little bit of a disappointment this year so far? This Davidson team. I mean, their step up in class games, they've not been able to handle those very well. In some of these games, they've been absolutely crushed on the glass in terms of rebounding. That's a concern. This is supposed to be an experienced, loaded Davidson team for Bob McKillop this year, who's been there forever, and they've disappointed and underwhelmed a little bit here in the first month of the season. Can they step up against Marquette with Marquette laying 3 in this game, 140 the total? What's your thoughts, Wildcats, Golden Eagles, Max?
Yeah, it's Golden Eagles all day for me, Ian. It's pretty simple. When you have Marcus Howard, who's a potential 40 to 50-point scorer in one game, you can't go against them. I understand, obviously, this is going to be a neutral court setting, but I think that Davidson, they're missing Keyshawn Pritchett. That's the difference for me in watching this Davidson team. You got really good on-ball handling, good freaking defense on the perimeter, and a guy that can cover the other best team's best scorer. Missing him has, I think, made a big difference for this Davidson Wildcat team. And we have to keep on talking about Kobe McEwen. He has come over from Utah State, sat out the year like everyone knows, and you know what? He's shooting 64% from the three-point line. He's making buckets when the defense is focusing on Marcus Howard, and I think that in the front court is where Marquette's best advantage is going to be today. I think that with a combination of Ed Morrow and Theo John, and then working Jace Johnson into the freaking rotation, I think that you have solid pieces, good size, and good rim protection. I think that Marquette wins this game. I think that Davidson, if they get in an up and down game with Marquette, they're going to lose by 25. I look for Marquette to really shut down, clamp down, shut down, lockdown defense. And I think that with Marcus Howard, it's hard to go against them when they're giving less than 5 points.
All right, liking Marquette -3. Iowa State, Alabama, also a 6:30 p.m. Eastern tip. Iowa State laying 3.5, total 152.5, 153. They're still mistake prone. They're still turnover prone. They still go into droughts offensively, but just based on pace of play, Alabama's a whole lot more exciting to watch under Nate Oates than they were under Avery Johnson, and we're seeing obviously a paradigm shift in the style of play in Alabama. It's gotten off to a so-so start, but I think long term, Nate Oates going to do the same good job he did in Alabama that he did at Buffalo for years with the Bulls. Iowa State 3.5, 152.5, 153 the total. Max, what's your take on the Cyclones and the Crimson Tide?
Yeah, I was looking towards the over in this game. I think that Alabama has a lot easier time versus Iowa State just because there isn't so much size on the other side against them today like it was yesterday. I think that obviously we need a really good performance from Javion Davis. He's come on strong. I didn't predict that he was going to get this type of minutes, but he's earned it in practice and he's earning it in game. The guy is shooting his free throws. He's hitting a decent percentage from the field. He's grabbing 5.5 rebounds, almost double digits in points, and he's keeping the turnovers down. My one issue with this Alabama team is Kira Lewis Jr.'s 22 turnovers so far through 5 games. That is completely unacceptable. This is a very talented player. He makes his free throws. He was one of the youngest players last year in the game, and he is a leader already. I think that the difference maker for Alabama today in this game has to be Jaden Shackelford. He's coming off the bench. He's given good minutes. He's given 13 points a game. I think that he comes in, and I think that he gives Iowa State some problems. I think that Alabama has a much easier time scoring the basketball, getting their tempo, and we saw Iowa State play into Michigan's tempo yesterday, and we saw how that worked out for them. So I'm not going to make the mistake again. I'm going to be betting on Alabama, and I'm just hoping that Alabama is able to get out to their pace, play those four-guard lineups, and Javion Davis is my difference maker in the game.
All right, looking towards Alabama to get the job done there. Central Florida, Pennsylvania. We've got the Knights and the Quakers. We've got Pennsylvania, Penn 3-point favorites, 140.5 the total in this game. Interesting matchup. I really applaud Steve Donahue. I think it's a good coach there with this Penn team. They've had a decent start to the season. They've had a couple of decent wins. The Providence win was a good win. The Alabama win to begin the season, pretty decent win for Penn. They've had some tough results too. Lafayette lost to Rice as well. So it's been some good, some bad. They have had some good moments. So it's which Penn shows up today. UCF, there's talk that this would be a down team a little bit from Johnny Dawkins' NCAA tournament team last year. But other than the loss to Miami, 3-1, you could argue, it has been a hugely tough schedule so far. But so far, UCF not bad with the transition from the team they had last year. What's your thoughts, Max? UCF and Penn.
Yeah, I think that we have to take a lot of the teams in the Ivy League a lot more serious than we have in years past. And I think that this Penn team definitely has some good qualities and characteristics to them. But I have to think about this game from a total perspective first and foremost. These are two teams that let their opponents shoot 40% or more from the field, 35% or more from the three-point line, and will put them on the line at least 15 to 17 times a game. I also worry about the turnovers with both these teams. You have an average of 12 to 15 turnovers between the two. None of them are really ball hawking, but they're also focused on three-point shot making, with 40% of their shots for both teams coming from the three-point line, which is, of course, above the NCAA average. I think that UCF and Penn go over the number. As far as the side, I thought initially that Penn was going to be able to cover the number. I think that from a roster personnel perspective, they do have the advantage. I am a little worried about Devin Goodman and how he's played so far this year, and then also the amount of bench minutes that you're getting. You don't have a lot of depth with this team, and I can tell that the coaching staff isn't really trusting guys like Bryce Washington, who I thought was going to be potentially a starter for this Penn team, and that has not worked out so far. I think that with Devin Goodman, he needs to step it up. And I think that with AJ Brodeur and guys like Jordan Dingle, Ryan Bentley, you have a good piece to at least get this game over. I don't know, I'm not as confident about my side on Penn, but from a number perspective and my created line, that's where the value, that's where the edge was, and that's what I bet.
All right, there we go. Good stuff. On we go. Texas Tech, Iowa. I believe we're down to our last three games. We've got Texas Tech 7.5-point favorites, 144 the total. I need to have a damn good reason personally, Max, to ever bet against Texas Tech and Chris Beard. I think he's done not just good, an amazing job with the Texas Tech basketball program. Look at where they were when he took it over. Look where they are now. And it looks like he's going to have just another solid, really good team again. One of the most unsung players in the country, and we know he was clutch for them at times in the tournament last year, Davide Moretti. I think he's one of the more underrated. Nobody talks about him, but he can come up with big plays, big shots at the right time. This is a talented team. I mean, you talk about some of the guys they've lost in past years, Culver and the like, but it looks like another good team. Iowa 4-1, but really their best opponent was DePaul, and they got blown out in that game. I don't trust Iowa. It's just a question of, do I want to lay 7.5? What's your take? Texas Tech, Iowa, Max?
Yeah, I sent this out to my guys at 6.5. This was a spot where it was Texas Tech or pass. Simply, Ian, you are correct. Chris Beard is one of the top 5 best coaches in NCAA Division I basketball, and you can tell because every other school that he's worked at that a guy tries to come over for them, that school blocks that transfer, and that's also happened this year to Joel Nwambi from UNLV. I think that this Texas Tech team, first off, Jameis Ramsey was one of the best freshman pickups that you can make that nobody's really given a lot of respect to. He is leading this team in scoring. He's putting up gawky numbers coming off a 27-point game. And I think that TJ Holyfield is a perfect change of pace type of score for him. Long, athletic, gets on the glass, can do a little bit of everything when it comes to offensively and defensively. He's intense, just got to stay out of foul trouble. I think that Kyler Edwards, he's my X factor. He's the guy that I'm waiting to really explode. He showed a glimpse of it last year in the NCAA tournament. I think that tonight, on center stage with the nation watching against a team that actually means something, I think that they're going to really come out strong. Iowa, my issue is Jack Nunch just got injured. Jordan Bohannon, he's questionable. No Patrick McCaffrey, he's out. So there's injury concerns, and that just puts more pressure on Luka Garza. You get Luka Garza into foul trouble, that puts more pressure on Joe Wieskamp. I think that Iowa is completely outmatched, just like you said, and I think we get a similar result to the game against DePaul, and I took Texas Tech, and I would take them at 7.5 still.
All right, Texas Tech laying the points. I agree with that. Of all the college basketball games personally that stuck out to me, this one was it in terms of laying the points with Texas Tech. This is the one I probably had the strongest thought on. 2 games left. We're down to the last 2. We're making great time, right on pace. Southern Miss, Seton Hall. Seton Hall, 17.5-point favorites, 141 the total. Just from a pure spot perspective, this ain't a Seton Hall spot necessarily. Do you want to trust them laying 17.5 after a gut-wrenching loss to Oregon where they blew a double-digit lead second half? Now you got to play in a consolation game in this tournament against Southern Miss. This is not what Seton Hall was thinking was going to happen at one point last night during that game against Oregon. The question is, can you trust Southern Miss? I think on paper this is not necessarily one of a great Southern Miss team for Jay Ladner here, but can you trust them to hang within this number? Max, interesting handicap here. Southern Miss, Seton Hall. What's your take?
Yeah, this is an interesting spot because Miles Powell, he didn't take the last shot when they had the opportunity, and I think that's because of his leg injury. There's an injury to his calf or to his thigh, and I think that they may hold him out tonight. That's the read that I get from the post-game interview that I watched yesterday, and I think that this Southern Miss team, they finally have Ladavius Drain scoring the basketball. He had a good game against Gonzaga, even though it was in a blowout. I think that this has backdoor cover written all over it. You got to know the health and the availability of Miles Powell before you bet it. And if you're looking at this total right now, I'd be looking at the under because I don't think that Southern Miss is going to get blown out the way that they did yesterday. I don't think Seton Hall is going to bring the offensive intensity. But you got to remember, Southern Miss's main strength is in the front court. What does Seton Hall have a big strength in and a lot of size? 3 guys between 6'10" and 7'1". This is a spot where I got to find out what Miles Powell's doing, and then I'd be looking at Southern Miss to backdoor cover this game.
All right, in the last game that we're breaking down on this Thursday card, it is the Creighton Blue Jays and the San Diego State Aztecs. San Diego State has taken some money, opened 1-point favorites up to 2.5. And this total, man, you talk about a total move, 133.5 was the open. It's up to 141.5 now. We're talking about an 8-point move with this total. And are people just saying, hey, 133.5? Can't have a Creighton game totaled 133.5. We know this is a fast-paced team. It always has been under McDermott. They love shooting the ball as quick as possible. Was it just a case of you can't have a Creighton game lined at a total as low as 133.5? Maybe that's what people are seeing, but this total is just getting absolutely obliterated up as we speak. Creighton, San Diego State, Max, what do you got?
Yeah, I completely agree with this move, Ian. I think that when you see Creighton with their 3-point orientation when it comes to offense, you can't line a game in the 130s, even though we know that San Diego State is capable and most likely going to play that type of defense. What we've seen so far in these games, Creighton has not been in a game that's lined under 139.5. The 3 games that they've gone under were in the 150 to 159 range, and then they have 2 games that they've gone over in the 140, 149.5 range. The one concern for me when it comes to this total and jumping on the over now at this inflated line is how do they react to the rims? How do they deal with the new sightings? That's always a question mark. And San Diego State, they have a lot of offensive firepower. A lot of people have told me, and I agree with them, this is probably one of the best San Diego State teams in many years. And I think that it starts in the backcourt with Malachi Flynn and KJ Fagan. I think Matt Mitchell coming off the bench is just a beautiful change of pace. These guys hit their free throws. Jordan Shackle, if he can get off from the three-point line, this game is going to be a very intense situation. I think that San Diego State is the spot. I bet it on the overnight lines. I'm a line watcher overnight. I got on the over early on, and I think that right now the only spot that I would tell you to take would be San Diego State. I think San Diego State wins this game. I think they win it convincingly. I think that not a lot of people are paying them enough respect. They play good defense. They score the ball. They're balanced. They hit their free throws. And when you got two guys that hit over 40% from the three-point line and a junkyard dog like Yanni Wetzel, the Vanderbilt transfer, this is a spot where I think that the line just went to the right spot. This is the team that should have been favored at the opener. San Diego State all day, every day.
All right, like in San Diego State to get the job done. I misspoke. We do have one more game. I almost missed it. Pepperdine, Arizona. This is the latest game on the card here for this college basketball slate. We've got Arizona right now in this one, currently 14.5-point favorites, 154 the total. One of my absolute favorite coaches in college basketball here in this game, in Lorenzo Romar. I think this guy was overrated at Wash. He does recruit okay, but as an X's and O's coach, I've never liked the guy, but he's the coach here at Pepperdine. They're playing quicker, playing a little bit faster, obviously, from a tempo perspective. This year, Pepperdine 31st in adjusted tempo, so they're playing a lot faster, so it makes sense this total's in the 150s. How do you see this one playing out, Max? Arizona, Pepperdine.
Yeah, I just don't know what to expect from this Pepperdine team. I had a lot of lofty expectations to be cashing underdog tickets on them, and this would be a spot that I can see them really stepping up and bringing their A game, because we know that against Sacramento State they did not. They lost by 5. They were 9.5-point favorite. It was a despicable performance by Colby Ross. I'm used to coming on here and talking such nice things about Colby Ross, but if you're going to commit 7 turnovers, you piece of shit, I'm not going to say anything nice about you. And the fact is, Pepperdine needs to freaking man the hell up. They cannot be allowing these subpar, low-par teams to be putting up these types of points against them. I think that they struggled to beat Albion Christian. They barely beat Cal Sun, and Cal Sun was in that game for 3/4 of the game. I think that they're going to be completely overmatched tonight against Arizona. It's a spot that I'd be looking at Arizona on the spread, but I'm not getting to the betting window as of yet, with it being a 11 o'clock game.
All right, so a lean only to Arizona in that one. We've gotten through every game. Great work, Max. Unbelievable job. Encyclopedia of college basketball. Make sure you follow Max on Twitter. He's going to have all his plays posted every day in college basketball, including his official show plays. I think he's got more plays than you can shake a stick at, so I don't think we've got the time to recap every single play he's on the show today, but make sure you're following him on Twitter. He's posting everything on there. Max, let everybody know how they can follow you.
Yeah, you can follow me at Maxwell Smart 420 on Twitter, and obviously you can see me on this show in the live line, and we'll be kicking it for Thanksgiving, busting out those live line winners, and I will be staring at a screen waiting to find an underdog money line for us to take, so hopefully we'll be cashing tonight.
Yeah, I do that in a lot of sports too, Max, whether it's football, basketball, hockey is a sport. I really look at moneyline underdogs when they're trailing in a third period. Moneyline underdogs, there's nothing better in live betting than cashing a moneyline underdog when they're trailing in a game. They come back and win. It's a great feeling. Max did it with Oregon last night, and Max, you can see him regularly on the live line as well. Max, awesome job. Good luck with the college basketball board today. It's always fun talking to you. I'm looking forward to seeing you at some point down the road as well. Good to talk to you. Good luck today. Have a good one.
All right. Thanks, Ian. It's a pleasure to have you hosting the show. You do a fantastic job. I can't wait to be on another show with you again. So have a great day, and let's cash some tickets, guys.
Absolutely. Let's cash some tickets. There he is, Maxwell Smart, breaking down the college basketball card. And that's going to wrap up this edition of the Betting with the Bag show, Thanksgiving edition. Reminder that there is no late show today at 5:30. The next Betting with the Bag show will be the morning show tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern. I will be back in the host chair once again for the last time this week, filling in for Jimmy. We're going to have Donnie Rightside as our one of our guests breaking down the NFL card. He's on every Friday. He'll be with us tomorrow. And Adam Booth will be back with me as well tomorrow to break down a big Black Friday NHL hockey card as well. So Adam Booth, Donnie Rightside will be my two guests on the Friday show tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern. So make sure you join us for that. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody in the United States. Have a great day. Enjoy the football. Enjoy the time with your families. Enjoy some turkey. Have a great one. Make it a profitable holiday weekend and a profitable Thanksgiving day. Let's cash some tickets. Thanks to everybody for watching. And as always, leche and los bookmakers.